It's a great pleasure to be here, and it's a great honor to be considered as a substitute for even an ex-foreign minister, even more so for an ex-defense minister. It's a very humbling experience, which I hope I will never have to go through again. I would like to start with a quote that I think brings to the fore both what I want to say and both the essence of what we are doing here tonight. Some of you know the book by J. Jeffries, Palestine, the Reality, that was published in 1939 and just recently was reprinted by the Institute of Palestine Studies in Washington and can easily be accessed as a PDF file through the internet. And this is what he writes. He actually wrote it in 1938. The book was published in 1939. Throughout the world of today, there is nothing more shameful as the condition of Palestine. The Arabs, the people of the country, are suffering from a superior injustice. We have abstracted from them the control of their own destinies and imposed on them by force an alien system of life. Another quote from him. The Arabs have not been able to make their full case to the public, especially in Great Britain. The situation, therefore, is now that while the British public was bound to hear a good deal about the Palestine question from ministers and Zionists and their supporters, it heard, to all intents, nothing from the Arabs. In 1983, Edward Said wrote, "In Britain, there is an unofficial policy and press censorship, according to which unpleasant truths about Zionism are systematically suppressed." End of quote. The American-Nigerian artist and writer Teju Cole has articulated succinctly. I knew I shouldn't put this word in this text, but I decided to have some more challenges as I go on with life. So he has articulated succinctly what I wanted to talk about when he said, "The dispossessed have to spend their entire life negotiating, which should not be negotiated at all." End of quote. Among these non-negotiable aspects of life, one can include the right to narrate your own history, the right to provide your own interpretation for the present reality, and articulate your vision and hopes for the future. The struggle to find a legitimate space for writing non-fiction and scholarly books on Palestine, and for that matter, drawing paintings on Palestine or producing films or plays on Palestine, this struggle is associated in my mind with two great Palestinian intellectuals. One is Edward Said, who unfortunately is no longer with us, and the other is Walid Khalidi, may he live long. Both were aware in the second half of the 20th century of how difficult it was to publish a book in a leading publishing house or an article in a leading scholarly journal that was suspected of being pro-Palestinian. Khalidi solved the issue by creating a protected space in the form of the Journal of Palestine Studies that later on developed into the Institute of Palestine Studies that even includes nowadays its own publishing house. Edward Said used his international fame and position to write books on Palestine and articulate very clearly in his seminal article, Permission to Narrate, the significance of the struggle to find such protected spaces and continue the effort to enter the mainstream production of knowledge and venues of publication. He also, on several occasions and in different publications, advocated dimming consciously the line between scholarship and activism. It became clear, as I will explain in a minute, for me as a supervisor of postgraduate students, that the power of activism allows us to expose the facts of the past and those of the present in a way that empower our solidarity with the Palestinian people without betraying our commitment to professionalism. As Said noted, and I quote, "In the case of the Zionist war against the Palestinians, the facts never spoke for themselves. Facts do not speak for themselves, but require a socially accepted narrative to absorb, sustain, and circulate them." And indeed, the carving of safe spaces to write about Palestine, which this moving ceremony and this whole project of the Palestine Book Award is all about, I think, and the explicit wish to fuse activism for Palestine with scholarship about Palestine have allowed us all who are here tonight to revel at the incredible, rich annual reap of books, articles, films, plays, and documentaries that together do not allow either a hostile or an indifferent political elite to downgrade, ignore, or altogether deny the Palestinian history, existence, and future aspirations. I have been moved and motivated by this twin effort in my own endeavor at the University of Exeter, which I joined in 2007. I was determined to create a safe space, and yet one that would be an entry point to a global hub of knowledge and scholarly work by creating the European Center for Palestine Studies. This was not done without some hesitations and reservations. Should not such a center be headed by a Palestinian, I asked myself. Was I, in a way, a Palestinian by choice, if not by birth, was the answer. And what specifically was still needed to be done, given the fact that so much has been obtained and achieved in the scholarship when we started our work in 2007. Sometimes the answer to these questions do not emerge necessarily from long pondering or abstract contemplation. They transpire out of the experience of life itself. And what transpired on the ground in Exeter was a safe space for postgraduate students, studies and students who worked on Palestine. In that space, you could be initiated into the future community of scholars by writing without fear of censorship or allegation of bias, or worse, accused of anti-Semitism or terrorism on topics that hitherto were regarded as taboo. And in some places in the world are still regarded as taboo, as we know. These new scholars examined Israel as an apartheid state. They deconstructed Zionism as a settler colonialist movement. And they probed seriously the scenario of one-state solution in the future. The yearly cohort of postgraduates working on Palestine produced, according to the university's own assessment, some of the best theses written in Exeter within the areas of humanities and social sciences. It seemed that commitment to the Palestine cause was a guarantee of excellence and not an obstacle to it. This excellence ensures that the next phases of the struggle for maintaining Said's call for permission to narrate will expand not just within the format of spaces or safe spaces, but through the inclusion of Palestine as a natural and integral case study within areas of inquiries that the Israeli academic lobby is doing its best to exclude us from. The Palestinian historian Bishara Doumani wished us to bring back the Palestinian into Palestine's history. I think we managed to do it by now. We now need to bring Palestine back into the wider conceptual framework of analysis and study. We are not asking for exceptionalism. On the contrary, those of us who write draw, or film on Palestine have been silenced by the exceptionalism demanded by the Israeli and Zionist academic lobby worldwide. It is time to accept that Palestine is not a figment of an Orientalist imagination, but a real place that does not have an invisible history, but a very transparent one, that should be included both in the annals of colonialism and oppression on the one hand, and of resistance and struggle on the other. Studying Palestine within the general phenomenon of settler colonialism is relatively new. Including it within subaltern and cultural studies had already taken place. Discussing Palestinian resistance as a chapter in the history of popular revolutions and anti-colonialist movements within core undergraduate courses or modules, and as a natural part of the undergraduate curriculum, is an ongoing process that, when it matures, will advance the struggle to narrate freely on Palestine and will bring with it new achievements that hopefully will one day impact the reality on the ground itself all over Palestine. This is not because the pen or the keyboard is mightier than the sword. The Israelis have brought this one? Okay. This is not because the pen or the keyboard is mightier than the sword. It is mainly because a shameful British celebration of the Balfour Declaration this year is a reminder and a symbolic manifestation to all of us that the brutal force used by the Zionist movement in the last 100 years against the Palestinians has been sustained not only by international material and diplomatic help or assistance, but also by scholarly scaffolding that stifle debates, censor criticism, and disable action. Finally, I want to mention, and do forgive me for this, the concept of love, or love without concept, just love. The love of writing or drawing, or writing and drawing for love, or because of love. This is fitting, because as some of our nominees today have written and drawn pictures, not only as a factual story or a factual history, or did not only provide us with brilliant analyses, they have also shared with us their emotion and their love for the cause, and mainly deep emotional sense of duty and solidarity with the human beings that represent this cause. And this is a good point to remember Rassan Kanafani, that in this July we commemorated his 45th year that have passed since his assassination by the Israelis in the south of Lebanon. On the one hand, he was the one who wrote that he writes for Palestine with blood. But on the other hand, he was a husband and a father, which led him to produce a gentle, loving, caring prose, showing us there was no contradiction between his fierce commitment to the cause and his humanity as an individual. He once commented that it was never revenge that moved him to write on Palestine, but actually his feebleness as a human being, driven by his own fragility rather than his own sense of invincibility. He taught us more than anything else that the struggle for Palestine did not have to come at the expense of living our lives, enjoying them and experiencing them to the full. Much of what I read among the more personal books of this amazing reap this year epitomizes beautifully this will and impulse for full and meaningful life as yet another, no less powerful manifestation alongside cognitive and activist action of the struggle for Palestine. So I'm very grateful to be present in this award ceremony tonight, which brings us all together, veteran and more recent young wordsmiths, who use their trade for the most just cause that awaits its day of justice. Thank you.